Now we've spoken about the top 8 best value players and the top 10 worst value players. Now it is time to implement all that knowledge into today's video where we're going to be building our first team. Now this is only a draft, so this team will most definitely change over the next couple of weeks, depending on transfers, injuries and also pre-season. Now I am in no way, shape or form a fantasy expert, so this is all my opinion. If you guys agree with me, then perfect. If not, then you don't have to use any of these players or use any of these teams. There is definitely more than one solution for the starting game week because there's so many good fixtures, and obviously a lot of people like myself look into the long run as well, where we look at other fixtures. So there's players that you guys might think should definitely be in this team where I might disagree, and there might be players in my team in today's video where you guys disagree. So I just want to get that out there. And also, before I get into this, I just want to say, in my last 2 videos or so, there was about 90% of people that weren't subscribed to the channel and watching the video. So if you're one of those people, hit the subscribe button, as I'm so close to 1,000 subscribers, and I will be doing a giveaway for a kit of your choice when I do hit 1,000 subscribers. So make sure you go and subscribe, turn the bell on so you're notified when I upload a new video. But other than that, I think that is enough talking. I think we can get straight into the team. You guys know why you're here. I know why you're here. So let's get straight into it. So in goal, I've actually put down both goalkeepers. Now, throughout this, I'm only going to be putting in the players that are going to be in the starting 11. And then at the end, I'm going to do the 3 substitutes. Or the 4 substitutes. But the reason why there's not going to be 4 substitutes at the end is because of the goalkeepers at the start. It literally depends on who you prefer, because of the fixtures and how good they are. They are genuinely so good. Now on the screen you can see I've got a TSB percentage as well. That stands for teams selected by. That is the amount of people, or the percentage of people, who have selected these players that are also playing fantasy. And just to note, there is still a long way to go until the season starts, so these numbers could rise a lot. At the moment, we've got Martinez from Aston Villa, former Arsenal man, who's got a TSB percentage of 38.6%. Now, I don't blame anyone for having this guy, especially with how good he was last season, and especially how good he's right now in the Copa America, against Colombia, when he saved 3 penalties, I think it was. He's a brilliant keeper. He is genuinely very, what's the word? He's a bit of a bargain for 5.5 million, and so is Sanchez. Robert Sanchez from Brighton is also a bargain at 4.5 million. Now, I said this in my last video, 0.5 million away from being the lowest possible price. So having him on the bench, or even having him as a starter, it's a steal in my opinion, especially with the fixtures he's got and how good he was last season. I think Brighton were joint with Aston Villa actually in goals conceded last season. I think they both had 46. So it's just a matter of who you guys prefer and who you think will be better this season. For me, I'm edging towards Aston Villa because they are obviously trying to improve as a team as well, obviously with the signing of Buendia, whereas Brighton have actually got news on losing some of their best players like Basuma. So, and he's one of the players that really do stop the goals from going in. A brilliant CDM. So it's all about, what happens before the season starts and also what you guys prefer. Now, quickly, I just want to say as well with these two is, did I even mention Sanchez's TSB percentage of 27.7%, which is very good for a goalkeeper. But like I was saying, the rotation between these two guys is beautiful if you're a religious fantasy player. It is beautiful because Aston Villa start off the season with newly promoted Watford and Brighton start off with Burnley. In my opinion, that's a no-brainer to put in Martinez, but like I said, everyone has their own opinion. I am not an expert. It is what you guys prefer. But having a newly promoted team at the start of the season is a brilliant way to start. It gives you, especially with how good Aston Villa were last season, beating a team like Liverpool 7-2, especially with the defence they have and the team they have in general. Imagine what they could do to Watford if they have another day like that. And then they've got Newcastle at home. Again, a game where I think they could definitely get a clean sheet. Same thing with Brentford. Now, obviously, we don't know how a team like Brentford is going to perform because they haven't been in the Premier League for so long. But I just feel like for 3 weeks, this guy can definitely stay in the team and does not need replacing. With Brighton's goalkeeper, Robert Sanchez, you can see in game week 3, they have Everton at home, which is red on the FDR scale. Like I said in the last video, if you don't know what the FDR scale is, it is a scale that fantasy give out, which Everton have I mean, Brighton have for Everton is, I think, a 4 on the FPL scale, which means hard. It's a harder game for them. And I totally agree. Everton can definitely score a goal past Brighton. But the reason I talk about rotation is because in game week 3, Aston Villa have Brentford. So you could do Martinez coming in for that game, Robert Sanchez on the bench, and then for game week 4, where Aston Villa have Chelsea, you could just put Martinez on the bench and then have Sanchez coming in for Brentford. They literally play Brentford within the space of a week. Now, for me, personally, that is the best rotation you could get at the start of the season. I've looked at every other player and every other position, but in a goalkeeper position where clean sheets are massive, there's literally no better rotation that you could have got. But those are the 2 goalkeepers. I'll show you guys at the end who I went for, because even at this point, I don't know. So yeah, those are the 2 goalkeepers. Martinez from Aston Villa and then Robert Sanchez from Brighton. Now, as the first 2 defenders, I've got Matty Cash and Lamptey. Same fixtures as obviously Martinez and Sanchez. TSB percentage of 2.1% for Matty Cash, which is a bit surprising because as a first team player he can definitely create. We've seen how Aston Villa play. They love to run down the wings and cross the ball in, especially when they've got players like Jack Grealish and Traore, El Ghazi. It's surprising that he's only got a TSB percentage of 2.1%. Tariq Lamptey, on the other hand, was not so surprising. At 4.5 million, before he got injured last season, he was having a very good season. And I don't feel like there's any reason for him to get any worse. You know, Brighton, they're a good team. You know, they're a mid-table team. I don't feel like they'll get relegated, especially with Brentford, Watford, Newcastle, because there's teams last season, realistically, that should have got relegated but didn't. Now, it's just a matter of obviously how they perform and whatnot. But Lamptey proved last season how good he was just before he got injured. You know, he was doing the numbers. He was getting assists. You know, down the right-hand side. That's how Brighton play as well. Most teams in the Premier League love to use the wings. And if I've seen anything or learned anything from Matty Cash and Tariq Lamptey, is that these are 2 fullbacks in the Premier League who definitely love getting forward and whipping the ball in. That is a massive chance for points for anyone. I think I've even seen Matty Cash take corners at certain points. So, you know, with a TSB percentage of 2.1%, it is very surprising. And like I said, with fixtures like Watford, Newcastle and Brentford in the first 3, you're looking at a potential 12. If he gets the 4 clean sheet points, you're looking at for a 12 points in the first 3 weeks minimum if they get the clean sheets. No disrespect to Watford, Newcastle and Brentford. Same thing with Lamptey, you know. Burnley, they can definitely grab a goal when they want. But then Watford and then Brentford in game week 4 are the games you're really looking at for Lamptey and Matty Cash to push points, because they both face Watford and Brentford. So, you know, these are just my opinions. Matty Cash, Tariq Lamptey, 2 great value players as well. You know, for 5 million and 4.5 million, can you really go wrong? You know, you can't really get any cheaper than that. So, you know, it's all opinion based. Like I said, this takes the team total up to 19.5 million. So, you know, take of it what you will, but in my opinion, these are definitely 2 players who people should contemplate and definitely look at. As the next 3 defenders, I've mentioned one of these players before. I've mentioned Konate. He's got a TSB percentage of 5.1%. Now, I can understand that right now because we don't know if he's going to be starting. We'll see by pre-season whether or not he's going to be getting minutes. In my opinion, he will be. I'll be surprised if he doesn't, especially if Van Dijk and Gomez are still not fit enough to start the season. I'll be very surprised if Konate doesn't play, especially when he's got Norwich and Burnley in the first 2 weeks. Those are definitely games where Liverpool can capitalise and get points. Now, in the next 2 positions, we've gone with Deeney and Luke Shaw. Less surprising picks, especially with the form that Luke Shaw has been in the Euros. Now, obviously, tomorrow is the Euro final, which is why I'm wearing the England kit right now. But the form that this guy has been on in the Euros and the form that he was in towards the end of last season, it's a no-brainer, especially with the fixtures he's got. They've got Leeds, Southampton, Wolves and then Newcastle. Man United can definitely do damage, especially now with the signing of Sancho and the potential signing of Camavinga, or however you say his name, the very good French midfielder. Man United are looking scary. they are looking very scary next season. And I think Luke Shaw in that defensive position for the first 4 weeks is a brilliant look. And next we've got Luca Dean, who is on set pieces, he's on free kicks, he's on corners, and he plays for a very good team. It's all about how they play without Ancelotti, because obviously Ancelotti has now gone to Real Madrid. Under Ancelotti, they looked very convincing. I think, was it their home or away record that wasn't the best, but when they do perform, they look like a very scary team. They've got Southampton at home in the first game at Goodison Park. They've got Leeds, and then they've got Brighton, and then they've got Burnley in game week 4. Definitely 4 weeks that could potentially fill up your team with points, especially for a defender with clean sheet points and whatnot. I think defenders are very important for any fantasy team. He's also got a TSB percentage of 23.6%, so he's a very popular player. Same thing with Luke Shaw, 38.7%. It's not surprising though. It's not surprising. I don't think I need to elaborate on Luke Shaw and Deeney too much, because these have been popular players for a couple seasons now in fantasy. That takes the team total up to 36 million. But yeah, I think like I said, the fixtures have been put out so well for fantasy players. If you're not a fantasy player and you're just supporting your team, and you're supporting a team like Crystal Palace where they've got 2 red teams in the first 3 weeks on the FDR scale, you're not going to be as happy. But if you're a fantasy player and you're looking at these kind of fixtures and potential points, you'll be very happy. But yeah, those are the next 3 defenders. The final 3 defenders in the 5 back I'm going to be going with Deeney, Shaw and Konate. In the midfield, we've gone with a 3 in the middle. We've gone with the very obvious 2, Bruno Fernandes and Salah. Their TSB percentages say all, 40.7% and 50.2%. That is more than half the game, and there's still many more people to still build their teams. That takes the team cost up to 67.5 million. I think, Salah, we all know why he's in there. Everyone has him, clearly. I think he's going to be most people's captains as well going into the start of the game. Maybe for even the first 2 weeks for me as well. Maybe even Bruno, because he's got the same fixtures as Luke Shaw. Obviously, they're in the same team. And with the points he got last year, I think if he wasn't the most points player last season, he was definitely in the top 3. I think he finished on like 244 points last season in fantasy. I mean, Bruno, we don't have to talk about him. Salah, we don't have to talk about him. We know how good they are. We know the impact that they have, especially on people's fantasy teams. I don't really need to go into too much depth. They are definitely 2 premium players that people are going to be going for going to the start of the season. I think the percentages of the TSB will definitely go up in the next coming weeks. It's probably already gone up because I made these video scenes like 2-3 days ago, so these percentages have probably already gone up. And then in the final midfield spot, we've got James Madison. Now there's obviously talks of this guy today going to Arsenal. That gasses me up so much as an Arsenal fan, but that's not what this video is. I'll maybe do another video on that and his move to Arsenal as an Arsenal fan. But other than that, if he does remain a Leicester player, he still has pretty decent fixtures. I don't understand how West Ham are red on the FDR scale, especially for a team like Leicester. But they are. But in my opinion, it's definitely more of a game that Leicester can win, more than West Ham anyway, in my opinion. Especially with the fully fit James Madison, because obviously he was injured last season, which is probably why he's a bit cheaper this season. Coming in at 7 million, in my opinion, for Madison is still. He's got Wolves, he's got West Ham, he's got Norwich, and then it gets hard in game week 4 where they got Man City. But for the first 3 weeks, if he does start every game and he's fully fit, he can definitely cause damage. But James Madison is another player where you don't really have to talk about. We know the damage he can do. We know how good he is. So Madison, Bruno Fernandes and Salah, I feel like we'll see that trio a lot in the start of the season. Obviously, Madison only has a 12.7% TSB, but I think that will definitely rise. He obviously played for, I think it was in the group stage, he played a game for England. So he can definitely play. It's just a matter of, does Brendan Rodgers think he's ready to start the season? But don't worry, the bench is good enough if he doesn't start. Now going into the forwards, we have Madison's teammate Iheanacho, who had a very strong end to the season. People did not expect Iheanacho to perform the way he did, and I know that for a fact. He's got a TSB percentage of 18.2%. He's got the same fixtures as Madison. Obviously, he's a very good striker, can definitely score a goal or two, but it's just about Brendan Rodgers and is he going to go with the two up front again, like he did towards the end of last season with Vardy and with Iheanacho. Maybe one of them played a bit more as a centre forward and behind the striker, because obviously they've got the wingers like Harvey Barnes, like the Iosi Perez's, and then obviously the midfielder Madison and Tielemans, who was definitely in my radar. But with Madison being back, will Tielemans still be getting set pieces like he was last season? It just all depends on Brendan Rodgers, you know. It depends on what happens for Leicester. You know, we can't decide what happens, but we will know the talent that Madison and Iheanacho have. And then as a second striker, we've got Watkins. With a TSP percentage of 33.7%, it says it all really, especially with the fixtures. Obviously, you've got the same fixtures as Matty Cash and Emi Martinez. As a striker, with your wingers being Buendia now, coming from Norwich, Grealish, Traore, El Ghazi, if Barkley stays, you know, they're going to have him as well. I think he is staying. It'll be mayhem if Watkins decides to be on good form. You know, he was on decent form last season. There were definitely games where he could have performed better. And there were definitely games where he performed his heart out. And he's definitely a striker that can get goals. And with the fixtures that he has in the first 3 weeks, I think a lot of more people, you know, I think this guy has the potential to go up to a 50% TSB percentage. I genuinely do think that. This takes the team rating up to 82.5 million. So it leaves us with a good chunk for the subs. But Iheanacho and Watkins, again, if you're a long-term FPL player, don't really need to talk too much about these players. And I think TSB percentages say it all as well, and the popularity of these players. But yeah, like I said, this is only a draft, so I'm not going to talk too much because this will gradually change over time, and I'll definitely upload them. But yeah, going on to the bench now, we've got Rafinha, who's got a TSB percentage of 25.2% with Man United away, Everton, Burnley, which is a bit easier, and then Liverpool in game week 4. He's still got a TSB percentage of 25.2%, and that's all because of his price. He was in my top 8 best value players, and I've stuck with it. He's in my team. He's only on the bench because I think he'll find it harder than my other midfielders, especially when I've got Bruno and Salah in there. But he is definitely a player who'll be picked a lot more as well. Now, after that, we've got Smith Rowe and Troy Deeney. Smith Rowe's got a TSB percentage of 4.1%. Now, ESR is a player that can understand why people won't put him in. Especially if we do sign James Madison, how much game time will ESR get? Obviously, there's rumours of ESR leaving as well. We've apparently rejected 3 bids now from Aston Villa. So yeah, it just depends on how much game time he gets. In my opinion, for 5.5 million, he's a very good sub, especially when he's got Brentford. If he starts against Brentford, he can definitely cause damage. Troy Deeney as a striker for 5.5 million, as good as he is, we all know he can score goals. He is my other sub. Now, that takes the team value up to, obviously, 100 million. I spent exactly 100 million. Let me show you guys how it looks in-game. So this is the team that I've gone with in-game. I've gone with Smith Rowe as my priority sub. Rafinha could potentially replace him as my priority sub. And Deeney as well. You know, it just depends on what I'm feeling before the season starts. Obviously, I've still got a lot to decide, but there's no rush at the moment because we've still got a long way until the season starts. I've gone with Martinez as my main keeper just because I feel like the fixtures just suit him much more. With the defence, we've gone with the 5-back, but like I said, with Konate, we don't know if he's going to play or not, which is why I am really focused on my priority sub because I want to get it right. You know, with a 5-back, my sub will definitely come on because I've got every defender on, meaning my sub will definitely come on. So I need to get my sub right if Konate doesn't play. I'll be very surprised if Konate doesn't play though. In the midfield, like I said, I've gone with Madison, Fernandes and Salah. Don't know why I said Fernandes like that. And then Iheanacho and Watkins up front. But yeah, that is the first draft. I don't want to talk about it too much because it is only a draft. Obviously, it will change over time. Let me know in the comments below what players you think I should add or replace, remove, swap for their prices, or, you know, whatever. You know, just let me know down in the comments below. Make sure you like, share, comment and subscribe. That is the first team that I've gone with. I think it's a very good team, personally. But I do think there is definitely room for improvement. I feel like I can definitely get a better bench if I think about it properly. But like I said, the season starts in August. We are only in July. So yeah, let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Make sure you like, share, comment and subscribe. Turn the notification bell on so you guys are aware when I do upload my next video. And I'll see you guys in the next one.